Hello everyone, welcome to this special edition of Marshfield Community News. I'm John Grabowski, and joining me today is our State Representative Patrick Kearney. Patrick, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me, pal.
We have a bunch of stuff we want to get through, talking about what's going on at the State House, things that you worked on. So I want to start off with, currently you're at the tail end of your first year at the State House. Give us a brief recap of how things have gone so far.
Well, that's actually one of my favorite questions to get.
Really?
I think it's been a roller coaster, as is, I think, most people's legislative careers. And I say to people when they're asking me how things are going, I say it's been the busiest, the most rewarding, and the most frustrating 10 months of my life.
Mm-hmm.
We've accomplished a lot. There are things that I think we need to continue to work on. So it's been busy, and sometimes things don't go as quickly as you would have hoped. But I've been able to come back to the district, talk with people, and accomplish a lot in the first 10 months. So it's been great.
Now, part of being a state representative is you're also serving on committees, not only just serving the district, but you're on various committees at the State House. What committees are you on, for those that don't know?
So I'm on four committees. I'm on steering and policy, export development, public safety, homeland security, and housing.
Okay. Are these committees that you like, hey, I'd really like to be on that, or you just get, because you're the new guy, you get picked, hey, we need a spot here?
Beginning of every session, you go in and you give your top 3 committee choices. I think my background as a Naval Reserve officer yields itself pretty well to the Public Safety Homeland Security Committee. And the Housing Committee, as you know, there's just a housing crisis in Massachusetts right now.
Mm-hmm.
It's been very interesting listening to the testimony. You and I have met on the Housing Choice Bill,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll see what we can accomplish. But Massachusetts has the highest rent prices out of any state in the union.
Really?
So
Wow.
we're trying to address that.
What's something you've learned year one up there?
I've learned a lot.
Well, maybe like the one big thing.
I think the biggest takeaway for me, as I talk with reps and senators and congressmen and other people that I've met, that the most successful people in politics, in government, in public service are ones that listen to their constituents. So my legislative aide, Katie, and I are in the office. We take phone calls, we see emails, we go to events in the district, whether that's the Mass Autobahns, the Daniel Webster
Mm-hmm.
Estate, the Wildlife Day, whether it's the VFW Veterans Appreciation
Mm-hmm.
Cookout. We go to those events and we talk to people and we ask them, what are your priorities? And I think the people that are most successful in addressing the needs of their district are the ones that listen to the people at those events.
You started your freshman term with a bang. You got really involved on the speaker issue, the outright ban on NDAs. Why did you take on these big topics so early? I mean, I think a lot of people expect our freshman state representative to just kind of sit in the background, listen, but you kind of jumped up right away.
Well, you know me, Jonathan.
Yeah.
That's the kind of guy that I am.
Okay.
And I knocked on 8,000 doors in my campaign. I listened to the people. Every representative in that chamber represents 43,000 people, plus or minus. And I think it's important that when you do that groundwork, when you have those conversations, you listen to people. You're their representative.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think now is the time to wait on those big issues. I do believe in term limits.
Mm-hmm.
For Speaker. The Senate President has a term limit. The Speaker used to have a term limit. I think it's important that there is changeover in leadership because there are people that have different ideas.
Definitely one of those weird Massachusetts laws.
Conundrums.
That we were talking about earlier. We were talking before we were filming. You were saying there's a law that a elected official or a member of the State House can't get arrested.
Yeah, there's an old law in the books that the founding fathers threw in there that could probably use some revision, but there's a bunch of those laws that
they can't be arrested
should
on the way to a
probably
vote, I think it was, right?
Yes.
Interesting. When we first started talking about doing this, the budget, we were in the midst of the budget cycle, budget season. What are some things that you want to point out in regards to the budget, key takeaways?
We were tremendously successful in the budget. Pat O'Connor and I worked very closely together, and we were able to accomplish a lot for the district. Situate, we had renovation money for the Wampatuck School. Situate Community Christmas. In Marshfield, we secured funding for the Marshfield Dog Park, for Alice's House, for Magical Moon Farm, $75,000 for renovations to the Marshfield Council on Aging. So from those conversations with people, there are a lot of good organizations in the district. There was money that we secured for Empower Her, which is a nonprofit that helps girls that have lost their mothers. They pair them with a mentor, and they meet on a regular basis. They help out with everything from homework to field trips, and we work really hard to deliver for the district. And in that budget, we do deliver for the district. In the last supplemental budget that the Senate just did a couple days ago, we secured $100,000 for Friendship Home, which helps adults with developmental disabilities on the South Shore. So every time there's an opportunity for us to bring something back to the district, we do.
How important is it to work with fellow reps in the district and also across the aisle, and even on the Senate side? You just mentioned Senator O'Connor. Like, how is it important to work with all those different people to kind of bring home things to the area?
I think that in the midst of a lot of national noise, and that's really what it is, Jonathan, we put that aside and we ask ourselves, what are the priorities for the people that we represent? That's the only thing that matters. And last week, I think you saw, we did the groundbreaking for the Veterans Home here in Marshfield. Veterans homelessness is a problem in Massachusetts and throughout the country. When I was saying at that event, when I was on the USNS Waters in San Diego, we'd leave the base and we'd see guys in their blue camo, homeless, outside of the base that they used to serve on. And so that veterans housing will allow 8 units for veterans to live there. And that addresses veterans homelessness in Marshfield. We're going to try to do that in every municipality statewide. And those are the priorities that the local officials, Democrat, Independent, or Republican, care about. Those are the issues that I care about. It's the issues that I think Senator O'Connor cares about. And those are what we focus on.
Some bills that you've been working on over the past year. What are some bills you want to spotlight?
That's a big question.
One or two.
We've written over 20 ourselves.
Wow.
And I've co-sponsored over 300 pieces of legislation. We have over 6,000 bills in front of us right now. So there are things that have to do with unions. There are things that have to do with seawall funding.
Right.
We just did a $1 billion Greenworks bill to help with the effects of climate change. I had an amendment that was adopted in that Greenworks bill to add the words water infrastructure. Not only does that allow for Situate to apply for grants to fix the brown drinking water that they have, it also allows for Marshfield to apply for funding for seawall repair. That's water infrastructure too. So you get creative in the language that you insert into certain bills, and that is a huge win for this district. There are bills that we're working on to bring back the lobster fishery. As you know, the South Shore Lobstermen's Association, we speak with them on a regular basis.
Right.
John Havlin from Marshfield. They can't lobster 3.5 months out of the year.
I was just going to ask you, what's this lobster tariff that's been...
Unfortunately, the administration has been at odds with the Chinese government. And
So this is on the national level?
On the national level. So from those conversations and listening to people, we heard that the tariffs that the administration was putting on sending lobsters to China was negatively impacting local businesses in Massachusetts. So we put forward a resolution from the Export Development Committee to say to the administration, to the Congress, to the Senate, these tariffs are not helping local communities in Massachusetts. And there were 2 businesses in Gloucester that were doing lobster distribution that went out of business because of it. So I can't stress enough how important it is to myself, to other legislators, to listen to people, keep our ear to the ground, and listen to the folks who let us know if our policies are helping or hurting their businesses, their families, their neighborhoods.
So this is more of a national issue that you're trying to create more awareness of, sort of thing.
Create more awareness and say to our national leaders that this is a mistake and it needs to be rectified.
On another related note, so this summer you testified against the ban on commercial striper bass fishing. Why was it so important to testify against the bill?
It's a bill that kills jobs in Massachusetts.
Okay.
We have a lot of fishermen in Marshfield and Scituate. As you know, combined, Marshfield and Scituate, out my district, is the third largest fishing port in Massachusetts, behind New Bedford and Gloucester. I have friends, family members, that are commercial striper fishermen. There are ways that commercial striper fishing helps the charter boat industry get by every year. That brings jobs to Marshfield. It keeps jobs in Marshfield, and it supports other local businesses like hotels and restaurants. It's a bill that, if we didn't allow for that commercial striper fishing, would really affect a lot of businesses on the South Shore.
You've talked about this in the past, but I'd love you to reiterate that the trickle-down effect of bills like that. You know, you've mentioned in the past that it's not just the fishermen getting impacted, it's everyone else.
Yeah, it's the local economy. And a lot of our local economy has to do with the water. Whether that's insuring boats, there are, whether it's Walter May Insurance or Andy Wenning's Insurance, whether it's Ken Duvall or Sean Harris or Melia Fuel, those guys benefit from people going out and spending time on the water. Baked local tackle shops. Pete Belson in Scituate, Scotty Sinclair at Green Harbor Bait and Tackle. They're all people that we know in our community that benefit from people's ability to go out and fish. So I know that it is a job creator for this district, and to outright ban it is not
a good idea.
Not a good idea.
Not a good idea.
And to give you some perspective too, Jonathan, the commercial striper fishing quota is such a small portion of the overall catch share that it actually, by banning commercial striper fishing, you're actually not addressing a population concern. If you were to address a population concern, you'd either raise the limit on the length that recreational fishermen could take, but banning commercial fishing of striped bass isn't addressing the major part of the annual quota the striper take.
Outside the box question, you're very passionate about fishing. I know it's been your family and friends, all that. Why does it seem like government's really brutal on the fishing industry? It seems like they really try to slam it to the fishing industry. To
put it very simply, I just don't think they understand.
Okay.
I think that a lot of the people creating the regulations are the ones that have never experienced actually doing the work.
Or it's some politician based out of
and
some landlocked state sort of thing.
And if you are a fisherman, if you're working that industry, they're environmentalists. Their livelihoods are based on a sustainable fishery. And so is the local economy. So sometimes there are accusations that are tossed out there that they have this mentality that just take everything as much as possible. And that's just not how they are.
So jumping to, we're still staying on the coast here. You wrote a bill that would create a special commission to study the effects of offshore wind projects. Tell us about that, and why is there a need to study the effects of these projects?
So I had Joe Kennedy down this summer. We were talking, we're out tuna fishing.
This is Joe the Third?
Joe the Third, who's now running for Senate. And one of his pals in Congress brought an air horn in and said to the chairman, "You know how loud this is?" He said, oh, it seems pretty loud. He said, do you know what drilling into the seabed, how loud that is? He said, it's 16,000 times as loud as the snare hole.
Really?
I said, wow. And he taught me something in that moment. Those windmills that are supposedly going offshore are going to be drilled 120 feet into the seabed. And that noise in those areas of critical habitat, not only for fish and shellfish, but also for right whales that are endangered, that is going to have a massive impact on the marine ecosystem. So I think it's important that we do everything that we can to get to renewable energy.
Yeah.
Solar, wind. But in the process, we have to be mindful of the things that we might be destroying while we're trying to do that. We can't say we're environmentalists, put up a bunch of windmills, and wreck the entire marine habitat in the process. We can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
And before we do it, we should look at it and study it and understand what we're going to be doing before we do it.
That's one of those things you don't understand the impact. This is a great idea, let's do offshore wind, and then there's an impact of putting the offshore wind there.
Yeah. And all of a sudden everyone says, where are the fish and where are the whales? And it's like, well,
we chased them away.
They probably left because it was really loud as we were drilling hundreds of these windmills 120 feet into the seabed.
True. You've supported legislation that will protect a wide variety of things from coastal threats and fund seawall repair. Tell us about how this piece of legislation would benefit. You know, we're in a coastal district. Seawalls are always kind of a constant conversation.
I can't say it enough. We have over 3,000 homes in the floodplain in the 4th Plymouth District. Coastal infrastructure is super important because not only does it protect the homes of the people that live in the district, those properties also pay taxes into our municipal budgets. Mm-hmm. And I know the municipal budgets here in these two towns, that 30-something% of the property taxes come from those 3,000 homes in the floodplain. So we need to fund protecting our coastline. Mm-hmm. And what that bill does is it provides extra funding streams for seawall repair and construction and pilot programs for things like wave attenuation devices, which are cheaper than seawalls and build the barrier beach on the backside of it.
Excellent. Getting out of the coast here for a minute, you've worked on legislation that would designate Marshfield as the home of Senator Daniel Webster and Governor Edward Winslow. Why is it important to have these designations?
Well, I grabbed that bill from former Representative Jim Cantwell,
mm-hmm.
and I think he knows.
That sounds like a Jim Cantwell type of bill.
Jim is a really smart guy, and he is also a historian, mm-hmm. and he knows that Marshfield has a history of leaders on the local, the state, and the federal level. And Daniel Webster's statue is in front of the State House. He was a United States Senator. His legacy continues to live on. As I said, we were at the Mass Autobahn Farm Day. He's an important figure in our nation's history, and he has a history here in Marshfield. So I was happy to refile that bill, and I think Jim had a great idea in giving them recognition that they deserve.
Are there bills that you see that it's like, oh, like this definitely screams this person without looking at the person who's sponsored it? Like this is up this so and so's alley sort of thing. Like in regards to bill.
I think there is a correlation about what legislators care about. Mm-hmm. So when we look at ways to address gun violence, Rep. Dave Linsky from Natick, that is one of his biggest priorities, and he champions a lot of the gun control legislation that's in front of the House.
I mean, I was thinking more of like the quirky bills. Like, I'm not calling Daniel Webster the home of Daniel Webster quirky, but those kind of like non-big law type bills. Like I remember, wasn't there? I think there was a bill several years ago at the State House about like the official song of Massachusetts, like
Roadrunner.
Yeah, like the Roadrunner.
That has a hearing. There is actually a very small group of people in Massachusetts that think that's a very big legislative priority.
Okay.
It's not a bad song.
No, I love it. Don't get me wrong. It's just funny. Like I was just saying, there's got to be like those type of bills out there that you look at and you say, all right, I know this person was involved in.
I can just think of a couple songs that I would probably put ahead of that song, but that's okay.
Brownwater in Scituate. Talk about what's going on. I mean, we're in Marshfield right now. I think people have heard about it in Marshfield, but they don't know like the details, like what caused it and what are you doing to help this issue.
Doing a lot. I had brown water. It looked like coffee coming out of my faucet last week.
So what causes brown water?
There were 22 miles of cast iron pipe that had not been replaced since 1930. I give a lot of credit to the current Board of Selectmen and the town administrator, the head of the DPW. They have removed all of that pipe and replaced it.
Wow.
They're now trying to flush out the iron and manganese that has been in the entire system for a long time. And just because we've removed the pipes does not mean that we've removed the sediment that's still in the system. There are pipes that are going to need to be replaced as we come down the road. The issue with removing the brown water is we need water to flush out the system. Sometimes we don't have enough water to flush out the system because then we leave ourselves dry. So, as I said, I had an amendment in the bond bill to include water infrastructure that'll allow every municipality, but specifically Scituate, to apply for grants to address the issue. We're fighting for funding on the state level from the Clean Water Trust to get low-interest loans to replace the pipes. We're looking at a comprehensive approach to try to address the issue as quickly as possible because no matter where you live, I think everyone has a right to clean drinking water.
Right. Is this an interesting case because it's, all these bills, impact you or affect you in some way, but this one really, really does. I mean, you go to brush your teeth and this
isn't a debate about big issues or something you hear on the national level, whether you like a congressman or a president or what they do on this particular issue or that particular issue. I don't know if there's one person in the entire world that doesn't think that people should have clean drinking water.
Right.
And we don't have it in Scituate. And there are other towns that don't have it. Stoughton has a similar problem. North Andover has a similar problem. We need infrastructure. We need infrastructure funding. And the number one priority, as we talked about earlier, working in a bipartisan manner, needs to be the issues that impact every individual the most, which is clean drinking water, affordable housing, access to quality education, access to a good paying job. So those are the things that we're fighting for. We're trying to address that issue. We're trying to address accurate flood insurance. We're trying to help the fishermen. And I quite frequently get the question, what is your number one priority? They're all priorities. And if you work hard and you listen to the people in your district, you take those phone calls, you call the people back, and you're involved in the process of every bill that might impact each one of those different facets that we've discussed, you can deliver to all of them.
I do some advocacy work which involves getting people to contact their state reps and state senators, and one thing I've noticed, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, it seems like the people getting elected are getting younger. It seems like there's been a lot of younger folks at the State House, and some second generation people too. I know you've had family that served. I know Allison Sullivan over in Abington, she's a second generation. Is it kind of a younger people? It seems to be more younger people.
I think that there are younger people that are getting elected. I think that's a good thing. I think that the next generation that's going to feel the effects of things like climate change should be driving the policy that could impact whether those sea level rise happens fast or we can slow it down. It's good to have family. Allison and I share an office. Her father had served with my mother in the House, so it's good. I think that there are fresh faces, fresh ideas, and I think that that's good for democracy.
And one of the things about being an elected official is you try to get to everything. And I'm sure your calendar is consistently full between sessions, stuff. And so you must rely on a lot of groups and organizations in the district to kind of be your eyes and ears and say, hey, this is an issue. Hey, can you help us with this? Who are some organizations that you've worked with that have helped kind of shed light on some things?
I don't know if we have enough time on the TV show to list all of them.
True.
But I think that I don't want to say I have a favorite, but the Korean war vets in Marshfield,
Oh, yeah.
they always keep me in the loop. They invite me to all their cookouts.
I know a couple of them, so yeah, they're great.
And they are very active at the senior center in Marshfield, too. So it's not just veterans issues that they deal with. They help a lot of seniors in Marshfield. And whether that's Bob Griffin or Ed Sullivan or any of the other guys that are at the Korean war vets, they know that I'm fighting for them, and they are really good to me when it comes to keeping me informed on everything that's happening in the district. But I go to events all the time. Last Saturday we started at the Korean War Vets. We went to the VFW, Veterans Appreciation. We were in Green Harbor for Harbor Fest. We went to the Farm Day, Magical Moon Farm, and we were back in Scituate for another Harvest Fest event.
How do you do it?
It's a lot of hard work. You get up early and you stay up late.
Year 2. We're shooting this at the end, actually on Halloween, so this will probably run in November, December. What are some goals and objectives for year number 2 at State House?
They're the same goals and objectives that we had in year 1. Deliver for the district, listen to people, try to bring funds back to the district, pass the legislation that people care about.
If people want to find out more about what you're doing, or they have an issue or something like that, and they want to reach out to you, how can they go about doing that?
So they can visit our website. It's electpatrickkearney.com. They can visit the official State House website, which is mahouse.gov. And all of the bills that I've sponsored myself and co-sponsored are on my legislative page. The number at the office is 617-722-2000. They can call my cell, 781-690-7923.
You're a brave man.
Or email me at patrick.kearney@mahouse.gov.
Well, we want to thank you for joining us today. And
I think it's important
to
give the cell out to people.
Yeah.
Because that's who I am. I want people to feel comfortable talking to their rep.
Angry phone calls at 3 a.m. about,
I've gotten them, for sure. But that's part of the job. I've also gotten phone calls at 3 in the morning when we had the power outages last week saying, I have a 90-year-old father that has Alzheimer's. Is there any chance we can call the legislative rep at Eversource or National Grid and get the power restored to this neighborhood as a priority?
Right.
We get a similar phone call about a woman that had a premature baby and needed electricity for a blanket, a heating blanket for a child. Those are calls that we take at 3 in the morning.
Right.
Those are calls that Mark Reed and from Eversource gets from me at that time, and he responds.
Those are the critical things, yeah.
And that's why I do that.
Great.
Because that's why I ran, was to take care of the people that live here.
I want to thank you for joining us today.
Thanks,
We'd
Paul.
love to have you back on soon to give us a fresh update so you have some other things going on.
Yeah, it was wonderful to be here. I love talking with you, as you know, and I love updating the people in Marshfield too.
Great, thanks.